caught me backing out of the barn. Well, we're getting ready for a big trip for this year. Iceland, the country of Iceland. So we're getting ready to take this bike to Portland, Maine, and we're going to be putting it on a ship and sending it off to Iceland. We'll fly back here and wait till it gets to Iceland, then we'll fly to Iceland. Then we're going to do the entire ring road around Iceland, and then some of the interior. And then, of course, we'll have to put the motorcycle back on the boat and put us on an airplane, bring us here. Then sometime in September, we'll probably go to Portland, Maine, and get our motorcycles and bring them back.
Well, I'm heading out to meet Steve. We will be heading to Portland, Maine to deliver our motorcycles to the shipping company that will be taking them to Iceland. This is the beginning of the trip, but it is not the beginning of the beginning. Keep in mind that Iceland is another country, and it's European. The planning for this trip began in March of this year, some 4 months ago. When this trip was proposed, Steve, Carson, and Warren began talking about getting their tents and camping gear ready. I immediately asked, "Camping? You mean like at the JW Marriott?" They just laughed at me, but sleeping on the ground in the frozen north did not appeal to Danny and me at all. I had been happy with Motel 6. Planning to sleep indoors every night required a very regimented plan. We needed to know just how much distance we could travel in a day. We needed to plan for slowdowns along the way. Then we needed to find some kind of lodging and make a reservation, now, in March, for our August arrival. Why? Because these places book up fast. Many places I called were already fully booked for the season. Obviously, with the guys camping and us staying in hotels and rooming houses, we would probably not see each other until the end of the trip. But I will include their trip in this video as well as ours. Over the next 4 months, we had a lot of planning to do. We had to find a shipping company to transport our motorcycles to Iceland, find out their requirements, and secure a reservation and shipping date. Basically, they required we hand over the titles to our motorcycles to be returned when the motorcycles came back to the United States. The list of documents they required were, the original title to our motorcycles. If there is a lien on the bike, then a copy of the title front and back notarized by the lien holder bank, and a lien holder authorization letter also authorized and notarized by lien holder bank. Copy of a green card, that's European road insurance. Copy of American insurance. Copy of driver's license. Copy of vehicle registration. A completed Form E9. Completed Form CBP 4455. CBP stands for Custom Border Patrol. Completed medical power of attorney form. Yes, our U.S. vehicle insurance was no good in Iceland, nor was our medical insurance. We had to find companies to insure us in European countries. For vehicle insurance, we used an insurance company called Motorcycle Express. Cost for the shipping and 2 weeks in Iceland was around $670 from my motorcycle. For medical coverage, we used IMG, International Medical Group. The cost of the medical insurance for me was around $175. Our fuel tanks had to have less than 1/4 tank of gas at the time we gave them up to the shipping line, and we had to give the exact weight of our motorcycles, including any baggage that would be strapped on. All of this had to be accomplished long before our actual July shipping date. Finally, we needed airline reservations to get us back to Indianapolis from Portland after we dropped off the bikes. We needed airline reservations from Indianapolis to Iceland and then return 2 weeks later. Finally, we needed air reservations from Indy to Portland to pick up our bikes from the shipping company and ride them back to Indianapolis. For me, the cost of air was negligible because I used air miles that I had previously accumulated. We chose MSkip shipping line, that's EIMSKIP, shipping line for the transport of our bikes to Iceland and back. Cost for my Honda Trike motorcycle was around $2,100. However, if you were shipping only one motorcycle, the price might be different. Our 4 bikes took up a whole shipping container. We dropped the bikes off on July the 20th. We would not see them again until we arrived in Iceland on August the 11th. Finally, Saturday, August the 11th, an early trip to the airport, and Steve and Danny and I are finally on our way to Iceland. Carson and Warren would be leaving from Boston International. Their flight would be a bit shorter than ours, so they will arrive in Iceland first. We sleep some and occupy the rest of our time playing games on the seatback video monitors until we spot the shoreline of Iceland. The landing was uneventful. We grabbed our luggage and headed for a bus that would take us into Reykjavik, the main city of Iceland. Our plan is to pick up our motorcycles from the shipping company as soon as possible. We check into the city center hotel and meet up with Carson and Warren. They provide us with some grim news. Somehow, in spite of careful planning and communications with the shipping company, we did not get the message that the shipping terminal in Iceland was closed on weekends. Oops. I felt a shiver go up my spine. Mostly because I was cold and all of our warm clothes are packed on the motorcycles. I could expect a shiver until Monday. Another problem, we were able to extend our stay at the city center hotel until Monday morning, but Danny and I already have reservations for Sunday night at Stikishalmur at the Hostel Shannerholt. That would have been the end of our first day of travel. Fortunately, they allowed us to cancel without penalty. However, this meant we would have to travel twice as far on Monday as originally planned to make our next confirmed reservation at Isafjaro at the Tangs apartments. Oh well, we'll just have to make the best of it. Fortunately, there is a great bar right across the street from our hotel. You may have heard that Iceland is expensive. It is. A beer is $10, a bit less during happy hour. A cheeseburger is $20 with fries. Camping runs $15 to $20 per tent. The camping guys packed power bars and energy gels for breakfast, dehydrated camp food for dinner. Lunch would no doubt be the famous Icelandic lamb hot dogs and snacks from local markets. Danny and I had to tough it out with warm restaurants, hard decisions of what to eat from lengthy menus. I don't particularly like fast food. Saturday was a planned day of rest. However, we will be resting for 2 days, as it turns out. A fishing trawler in dry dock gave indication of the Greenland Sea and North Atlantic weather. There's little doubt that we are here very close to the end of their summer season. However, we can stay reasonably warm across the street from our hotel at the Drunken Rabbit Bar. I saddle up to the bar and look over the beer on tap. One local beer that took my eye was called Gull, Gull. It wasn't bad. However, if you pronounce its name the way it is spelled, you might notice a slight smile on the bartender's face. He has definitely pegged you as a tourist. When I saw his smile, I asked how to pronounce Gull. He said the L's on the end of the word are hard L's. Now, I have never heard of a hard L. I have no idea how an L could be pronounced in a hard way, at least without making a fist and shouting. He demonstrated the proper pronunciation. Gook. Now that sound is not made by closing the back of your throat and forcing some air out. It is made by moving the side of the tongue to the side of the mouth and forcing air past it. Gook. Gook. Obviously, we could not stay at the bar for 2 days, so sightseeing would occupy much of our time. The National Museum is comprehensive, covering everything from settlement and saga periods to the modern-day Iceland. And the Maritime Museum celebrates Iceland's link to the sea. Well, it's Monday, our third day. We make a beeline to the shipping terminal as soon as they are open. Following all of their red tape and procedures, we are finally released. A quick stop outside their secure area, we donned our helmets and headed back to our hotel to check out and organize our motorcycle baggage. We had intended to store our air travel luggage at this hotel until we returned at the end of the trip. Much to our surprise, they refused to store the luggage, even at the possibility of losing us as guests for our last 2 nights in Iceland. We found a locker at a close-by parking garage. After luggage stored and bikes packed, we headed for a BMW dealer to meet up with Steve, Carson, and Warren. They wanted to stop there to store their air travel luggage. We didn't take the chance on them storing our luggage. After all, we were riding a Honda. Finally, we head out and onto the open road. We passed through a long tunnel and a toll gate, which we failed to stop at. No one come after us. It was a cloudy day, but without rain. We tooled along behind the adventure bikes until their departure from the road we were on. We had to make it to our night stop at the Tang's apartment. The adventure riders headed for the campground they originally planned. They waved goodbye and we were on our own. The gas gauge is now down to a quarter. We start looking for our planned fuel stop. We look and look and look. We saw where there might have been one at one time. Gas now was down to 1/8. I'm starting to worry. I could just see us stuck for the night on this lonely road trying to sleep while sitting on a motorcycle in the rain. We began running at only 30 miles per hour in order to extend our range as far as possible. Oh Lord, what else can go wrong? Now the gas gauge needle is squarely on the big E. My heart sinks. I'm not sure why the bike is still running. As we come up over a rise, there, on the side of the road, was our salvation, a sign with an arrow pointing to a gas station. I use the term station loosely because it was nothing more than a gas pump in the middle of a parking area. No attendants, no store, just a gas pump. We parked alongside and I opened the gas cap and then slid my credit card into the reader. Immediately, the pump requested my PIN number. Wait a minute. This is a credit card. I don't have a PIN number. No matter. Without a PIN number, we are not buying gas. Danny looks at me. I shrug. I dig around in my wallet and find a debit card. Its PIN number did work, and gas was finally flowing into our tank. Lesson learned. A lot of the filling stations outside of the cities are no longer in business. From now on, we passed up very few gas stations without topping up. Word to the wise. If you're driving here from the U.S., be sure to have enough money in your checking account so that you can use a debit card for fuel. Credit cards tend to work inside of stores and restaurants, however. With a new lease on life, we continue on Route 61 and enter the West Fjords. As we run along the shoreline, it becomes a lot like driving along the edge of a picture puzzle piece. You would have to see a map to understand it. However, a more beautiful ride could not be had anywhere else. With evening closing in, we spot the Tang's apartments. Check-in is easy. Dinner is next. We find a delightful little restaurant. After dinner, I slip into my pajamas and slide in under the covers. The bed is soft and warm and inviting. Laying there, I wonder about our adventure riders. How about we check in on their day? Narration for the adventure bikers was written by Carson. However, you will recognize my voice as I read it. Mostly cloudy, but not raining. High in the 50s. Glimpses of sun over mountains north and east of us. Some of us had to figure out where to store our luggage. Fortunately, the local BMW dealer was happy to hold a few bags for us. We also got their contact card and info in case rescue was needed. David and Danny chose long-term lockers available at a parking garage. Once sorted, we had some logistical swapping of gear at the hotel/Airbnb. Then we were off to get the bikes as soon as the port office opened. This was a painless process. Show paperwork, pay, and you're escorted in safety vests to the container area to unstrap and ride the bikes out of the container. After a quick fuel stop near the port, we swapped bags around and were finally off. The beautiful windy roads along the shore led us north out of the city. Traffic was light and free-flowing. We saw black sand beaches, our first of many along the way. The mountains ahead and to the east looked like crumbling seamounts, hard basalt flat tops with debris filtering down to create a rocky skirt. A long tunnel, about 6 kilometers, took us under Kavlfjörður to Akranes. It was very warm on entry compared to the surrounding air, but smelly with exhaust fumes inside. We were surprised by a toll booth upon exit. We hit the automated booths and didn't stop. We have Easy Pass after all. David and Danny split from us to make their reservation for the night. Recalling, we planned to spend an intermediate night in Steikeshalmer, but the delay in getting the bikes meant they had 2 days riding in one. The rest of us could still make our planned campsite. An easy ride. Campsites in Iceland don't take reservations except for the ones that have small cabins and cottages. So the rest of us head west into the West Fjords, following the slow sloped shoreline dotted with red-roofed white farm buildings along the strand between sea and foot of the mountains, the top crevices of which still had snow this late in August, feeding multi-layer waterfalls. There are also Iceland's famous free-range sheep everywhere. There are no fences. Major towns and the crossroads have steel gates embedded in the ground to keep the sheep off the roads. We saw the peninsula's namesake glacier, Snæfellsjökull, from afar. Crossing the peninsula east of the glacier on gravel, we were intercepted by a herd of 50-plus Icelandic horses, immediately recognizable not for their long manes but for their peculiar gait. Unique to Icelandic horses, they have their own fifth gait, where all the motion of the horse seems isolated from the rider. We ran with them between elegant galloping lines, so close we could hear their breath and almost touch them. We continued through multi-hued mountains that reminded me of the painted desert in the American Southwest and expansive black lava fields. The lichen seemed to like them, as its light green splashes everywhere. I wonder how long it takes for the lichen to break down the craggy volcanic rock. The heated gear felt nice at speed, even though the wind was light. We stopped along the way at a rest and fuel area for a hot dog and chips from a food truck. Prices for the famous Icelandic dogs must be regulated. They seem to be about $4.50 no matter where you buy them. Making Stykkishólmur relatively early, we fueled up for the next day's 9 o'clock ferry ride and set up camp at the local site, about a mile from the ferry boarding. The sun was peeking through layers of thin clouds. I feared catching Warren's cold, as my throat was feeling scratchy and I was starting to sniffle. Fortunately, I brought plenty of meds to treat the symptoms. Some last-minute bike tweaks and a dinner of dehydrated food, coffee, and a nightcap, we turned in amongst late twilight and aimed for a reunion with the Trike Boys in Hólmavik the next night. We are departing Ísafjörður for Hólmavik. It's a beautiful blue sky day. By the way, don't be too critical of how I'm pronouncing these Icelandic names. I mean, give me a break. J's that sound like Y's, hard L's. I really don't have much of a chance. Departing Ísafjörður was not straightforward. My GPS actually kept taking us in circles. It didn't take too many trips past the same scenery for us to realize that the Garmin was unreliable. I guess it doesn't like those aftermarket maps that was loaded into it before we left the States. We started relying on our phones for navigation. The Garmin is also an XM satellite radio. If only it could see a satellite from way up here. Fortunately, I had loaded a lot of my favorite music into it, so its sole purpose here in Iceland was to be a music box. We came to a tunnel, the mother of all tunnels. It was over 9 miles long. It started out as a 2-lane, but soon became only 1 lane. Every once in a while there would be a pull-off to my right for me to use when I saw oncoming traffic. Eventually, there came a light at the end of the tunnel. We were glad to see that the sky was still blue, with lots of sunshine, and the road was still nice and smooth. But not for long. Gravel and dirt soon replaced the beautiful tarby road. I was not expecting this. I definitely had planned to stay on improved highways. On so many trips I've made with this trike, resulted in damage. We did the Labrador Highway a couple years ago that did some $3,000 damage to the trike by the time I got it home. I was hoping not to do that this trip. Let's take a break and look at some of the beautiful scenery here in the West Fjords. Quite beautiful, isn't it? Except this sheep path I'm driving on. It's good we don't have a problem with heights. On two wheels, it might be easier to lose control and then, well, eventually we come to the Dinyande waterfalls, tumbling in a broad sweep over 100-meter rocky scarp at the head of Dinyande Vigor Bay. Dinyande is the most dramatic waterfall in the West Fjords. The bumpy ride to Dinyande from either direction is famous in Iceland for its incredible views. The falls are the catchment area for peaks and inland valleys all around. Climbing up from the carport, Danny passes many smaller falls until he reaches the thundering main chute. He's allowed to approach the massive cascade as it plunges over the mountainside. The view is spectacular. The surrounding area is protected, but there is a free campground here with pit toilets and running water. Whoa! I look up and look who's coming. The Adventure Boys. They're coming from the direction we are headed in.
And then I wanted to know how many gallons, how many liters I want. Well, I wouldn't know a liter from a bucket of dung. And I don't know how many. And then how much? Well, how much is a liter? I don't even know what the price of gas is here. So I just put in, what do we put in?
6,000.
6,000, whatever this currency is. And I got almost 6,000 in it. Almost 6,000. About 5,000 something money.
It cost me about 57,000.
But they said it won't charge you for it.
Well, after a brief reunion, we are back on the road again. We're heading south, then east, while the Adventure Boys are heading north, then east, over the same road we came today and yesterday. We all end up in Holmavik tonight. We finally get back to a paved road on our southern trek, but when we turned east, the road went back to dirt. Just to finish off a perfectly beautiful day, it begins to rain, and rain, and rain. Dirt, potholes, rocks, and corduroy bumps, together with wet, smudged windscreen and helmet visor. I really could see very little. By the time I could see things in the road I'd rather miss, it was too late to miss them. Mostly I just drove over whatever was there. The edge of the road was blurry. I tried to stay in the middle. The Hotel Fina in Holmavik was a welcome sight. Cloudy, 50 degrees, clear to the west at dawn. Rain overnight, turning intermittent at camp in the morning. westerly breeze overnight, backing at dawn. Overnight was comfy. The wind rustled the tent a bit, but wasn't cause for concern. I woke before 5 o'clock with daylight, then again at 6 o'clock as rain tapered. Coffee in tent. Grateful for the purchase of a new tent with extended vestibule for exactly this purpose. And planning a rainy pack-out. Wind helped the tent dry quickly, and the rain paused long enough to allow packing. You'll notice no campfire in the pictures. Nothing around which to gather, warm up, and socialize. That's common in Europe campgrounds, especially in Iceland where there's nothing to burn, but uncommon to the American camper. It's odd at first and definitely adds to the cold. You layer up off the bikes and become thankful for a warm sleeping bag. The hot pots and pools take on even more significance as a result. 2, there are no supplied grills, hibachis, or the like, as is common in stateside. Again, there's nothing to burn. Even charcoal would need to be imported, and I'm sure at a very high price. We rode to the ferry with our heated gear turned on, about a mile, and easy on board. I noticed my companions eyeing Icelandic wool hats, but the cold wasn't enough yet that they bought them. Finding a suitable spot to hang out near the weather deck, we took breakfast on board for the 3-hour ride. About $23 gets you coffee and a Balderslaka, seemingly named for the ferry. It was a interesting large sandwich made of toasted white bread and the fillings of a BLT with sauce, raw red onion, cheese, and a fried egg. It was delicious, warm, and filling. We noticed an axe in a case on board. Must be a Viking ship. But what's up with the different motor vessel name on the axe? Was this an emergency item or a trophy from some past conquest? After about an hour and a half, we reached Flatty Island as the sun breaks. A cigar of a place with a small port, a one-pier island, and few brightly colored buildings where small box cargo is still off-on-boarded by shipboard crane. We leave low-ceiling clouds for high, hazy ones in Flatty. It's been so cloudy, the slight break makes the island look like a hallowed place. It's a quick stop, off and on cargo and a few passengers. The West Fjords look clear with blue sky and a few puffy white clouds. Good for the upcoming 40 miles of gravel. 1 hour later, we're in Bryanslækur on the West Fjords. We hit a good section of gravel today. It was brilliant riding, like the moon in spots. Lots of dirt switchbacks up and down the mountains surrounding the fjords, from sea level to 1,200 feet. We saw a lot of multi-level waterfalls spilling off from the higher peaks, including the famous Dynjandey Falls, where we temporarily reunited with our trike companions. Fjords galore and lichen-covered lava fields. It's so varied as to be difficult to describe in words, and my pictures can't do it justice. Just amazing. Past Thingey, more fjords and a 15-kilometer tunnel through live rock. There was even a turnoff in the tunnel for more western reaches of the peninsula. Views past Isafjordur continued to astound us as we round fjords the rest of the day. It was a long day of focused riding. We find camp at Holmavik next to the municipal pool and enjoyed alternating between 170-degree hot tubs and the cooler pools. Being so warm was relaxing after the long ride, as it had turned colder with spitting rain later in the day. We set up the tarp over the lone picnic table at the campsite. A real treat as the wind picked up a bit and the rain spat hard and cold. We lent it temporarily to an Italian family traveling with young kids and unprepared for such weather. Well, okay, they actually squatted in it while we were at the pool, but we didn't kick them out. Where to tomorrow? Who knows? The West Fjords will be tough to beat for scenery. It's colder, windier, and wet in camp, but dry under the tarp. My tent fly is still wet from the morning, and I'm hoping more serious rain holds off. We reunite temporarily with our orphaned trike riders and snack on smoked salmon, crackers, a delicious lamb kind of pate, and Icelandic rind cheese procured from the local market.
The idea was to come to Iceland, and now I have a cold, feel like lousy, and no sun, but it's a beautiful country actually. So let's go find out what else it's got in store for us.
Oh wow, I seem a little down. Well, the last half of yesterday's ride was a bit difficult. I'm sure I was disappointed when I realized that today would still be a rainy day. We're leaving Holmavik for Surakroku and the hotel Tindastal, some 190 miles away. Nothing to do but just get going. The weather in Iceland is quite interesting. Ceilings are so low they often touch the ground, making distant scenery obscure, but replacing it with a more micro vision of what is closer. So, let's just get on the road and get it done. What? Iceland has nearly torn off my license plate. I wonder what else it has torn off that I can't see. Oh well, at least our room is warm and cozy. King-size beds may not have found their way to Iceland yet, but these singles are quite comfy. I wonder about our adventure riders. Not sure where they are, but it's going to be a cold night, especially for sleeping outdoors. It's the coldest day so far. 40 degrees and light rain. We finally get a break in the rain so we can pack up and leave camp. We seem to be running again from the sun, as it's always behind us. After coffee we break camp, suit up, plug in the heated gear, and go. The visibility is less than 30 feet and we're in second gear so we don't outrun our visibility. The road is very windy and twisty. I find myself creeping well above the 56 mile per hour speed limit, leaving my companions behind. The road is gravel and very potholy and washboarded in many spots. I wonder how the trike is handling this. We find a travel stop at a Stratherscally for bike and human fuel. It's popular and one of the largest stops we've seen, probably because it's the only one for a wide range. The cafe is full with many choices, including multiple lines. Salad and soup bar, a bottomless bowl of lamb soup. We're in and out of light sprinkles all day, but it's mostly dry. Roads are sweeping and beautiful along this section of the Ring Road. We make a Kari, indeed a largish city, and head just south to Afnagil. We camp in a big grassy area with a very nice set of facilities. We set up camp and head to the pool. A word about Icelandic hot pots and pools. They are very organized, clean, and naturally fed, so very little treatment of water is necessary. Hence, everyone is required to shower naked before entering the pool. Posters in the gender-labeled changing rooms remind you which parts to wash with special care. Some find this group showering naked uncomfortable, but trust me, no one cares. In fact, if you try to shower with your suit on or not shower at all, you will not only stick out like a sore thumb, you'll get the pool police on you. After soaking and steaming, back to camp. It's cold, low 50s. Too cold to socialize after dinner. The forecast for tomorrow is wet with rain. Real rain, arriving overnight. Heading to Myvatten tomorrow, very short ride of about 30 miles for a 2-day rest and exploring the area. We depart today at the crack of noon, as usual, heading for a Kari some 80 miles away. We anticipate more sunshine and a bit warmer for the trip. We've never been cold riding on the trike. The bike is heavily cowled, keeping us out of the wind. We do wear heated clothes. It's the rain, bad roads, and low visibility that are the biggest problem for us. We make a Kari by mid-afternoon and check into the Kia Hotel, the city's largest hotel with 104 smart business-style rooms with balconies. Our balcony overlooks the main entrance and my trike parked there. There's a smart restaurant and a cozy lounge. The location could not be better, situated in the heart of the city with just about everything you could want within walking distance. Some say the Icelandair Hotel is fresher and cheaper, but the Kia had me with smart restaurant and cozy lounge. Kia is Iceland's second largest city, with only 18,000 residents. It is nestled ahead of Iceland's longest fjord, just a stone's throw from the Arctic Circle. The Adventure Boys will pass us up today on their way to Myvatn. After check-in, we decide to take a walk around the area. I do love a city. The Trike, sitting out front in the driveway and entrance to the hotel, certainly draws a crowd. I spent much time in our room on the balcony watching the tourists admiring it. On occasion, I would go down and play host, giving short talks about our adventures here in Iceland as well as other trips that the Trike has taken.
Last year we went to Labrador and up that way. Iceland this year. Maybe Australia next year.
Do you have problems shipping it about, or is it fairly easy?
Oh, it's easy. It just takes a little money.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying that. It's not like you're taking a car, is it?
No, there's a lot of details. You got to get insurances and things because once you leave your country, then your insurance is no good. It's a 2008, so it's been over the road a little bit. Still running fine.
And the classics like that.
Canada, the Alcat Highway, then back into Alaska and went around there. And then we took the haul road as far as I could get. I don't have enough ground clearance to get to that. And you can see my license plates already done.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And I've lost plates before.
You need a zip tie.
Well, zip ties don't work. They just bust them.
They just bust
the zip ties off. Yeah, I'm getting ready to find a couple bolts, put back in it. But at any rate, so then we went up the Hall Road, and that's where we got about the Arctic Circle.
How many of you guys were on it?
On that trip, there was just three of us.
Yeah.
My son and
Three.
three of us. So, well, it was a long trip. It's hard to find people.
On our second day here, we jump onto the Trike and explore the farther reaches of the city. We were also looking for a service garage to have my license plate and holder secured. I could have done the job myself, but I'd had to find a hardware store to buy fasteners and maybe a tool or two. Then I'd have to get down on my knees to fix it. My knees were already sore from praying so much for good weather. As it turns out, the mechanic only charged me $10. For our last night in Akari, we celebrate with a great dinner and finish it off with an evening in the lounge, drinking and talking with locals and tourists. I do love it so. The intent today is to make for Lake Myvatn for 2 days rest and camping, using that time to explore the boiling mud pits, waterfalls, and the peninsula to the north. The ride there is like another planet across lava fields. The mist that Selfoss makes is seen from far away as we approach. A 1-kilometer hike. The view is worth it. It's almost too big to be believed and leaves most viewers speechless. We have lunch at My Vatten in a small cafe. $25 lamb cheeseburgers and $12 drafts. We secure our campsite and explore a bit. Past My Vatten, we come to the large geothermal field of Kavar. It looks and smells like a wasteland full of sulfurous steam escaping fissures and boiling mud pits. There's a power plant there. It's cooling water, fueling the spa at My Vatten nature baths, much like the Blue Lagoon in the south. It looks inviting for a before-dinner dip, and we took advantage despite the high price compared to public pools and baths. We make camp at a lovely site at Reykjavik on the shore of My Vatten. They have wonderful showers, communal, and cooking buildings. It's cold and raining again, so we move to the communal cooking building. The steam from the isobutane stoves condenses on the stretched canvas ceiling, making the inside rain almost as much as the outside. The find of the trip is Oscar brand powdered bouillon. That night it became tradition to have a cup of warm broth before bed. Beef first, though we tried all the other flavors too. Lamb is a bit gamey, chicken's decent, duck is great once it grows on you, but beef is the best. Some of us are getting hats and gloves tomorrow, no doubt. It's our second day here, another gray, wet day. It's chilly, mid-40s. After making coffee and the usual breakfast of cheese, fish, a must if Warren's riding with us, and bread, we agree on the plan to make for Dettifoss, then on to Husavik. There are 2 roads leading to the west and east sides of the falls. 3-digit roads tend to be worse than 2-digit ones we've found, but not as off-road as the F roads, those prefixed with a F on the map. Figuring we can always turn around, we make for the western side of Dettifoss. The road up to Dettifoss is the usual hard-packed gravel common in Iceland. You may know the falls from the opening sequence of the Alien movies. The bikes always attract attention, with the most common question being, how do you get them here, after they see the license plates. The hike is about 1.5 kilometers across some pretty barren but fascinating volcanic landscape. It's a strenuous walk in full armored riding gear and heavy off-road boots, but the views are worth it. I envy Steve in his one-piece Aerostitch suit with its easy on, easy off. But it's so cold none of us are shredding any layers. We back off from following the road F862 past Dettifoss once we hit a construction detour that shunts the road to boggy ground. The big heavy bikes are a handful in deep mud. We don't know how long that goes. So we turn around there, back to the Ring Road heading west, then up Route 87. We hit a section of deep, big gravel in a construction zone. Not fun. The bikes dig into the gravel and want to toss the front tire around. But we make it through and decide not to come back that way, but take the 845 to the west instead. Husavik is a small fishing town on Skjalfunde Bay. It's the site of the first settlement in Iceland, and because of the variety of whale species in the bay, it has become the self-proclaimed whale-watching capital of the world. The Whaling Museum is comprehensive with many specimens locally foraged from beaches in Iceland. We lunch on a cured ham, a holiday delicacy in Iceland, and burgers at a very Nordic-looking restaurant on the harbor. Afterwards, getting low on our whiskey supply, we make for a carry-out, only open for 2 hours each day, and pick up an $82 bottle of famous grouse. Ouch. Finally succumbing to the cold, we check out the local clothing stores for wool hats and gloves. Hence, you'll see classic Icelandic wool hats on Warren and Steve after this. Once back in camp, we use the common cooking area where, despite the roof, we get very little precipitation due to the condensation. So how can you spot Americans camping in Iceland? Yep, flimsy tents that waterlog easily. Warren thought ahead and bought a more durable one, using those they rent in Iceland as his example. Super lightweight backpacking tents just can't keep up with the weather. Neither Steve nor I got wet, but the rain flies get pretty waterlogged. You really need a more waterproof four-season tent in Iceland. Also, different than camping in the States, the Europeans tend not to socialize around their tents, using instead the common cooking and congregating buildings supplied by the site. They leave early and arrive much later, near sunset, and seem to use the tents merely as a proxy for sleeping in a hotel room. My theory is that's because they're not used to having campfires to gather around. They also don't seem to bring camp chairs, again probably because they're not socializing around the campsite. Wonder what they would think about camping in American style at one of our more wilderness sites. The final miracle of the day. Note how many hot dogs come in a package and how many buns. What a civilized country. It is the morning of our 8th day here in Iceland. We loved this city so much we hated to leave, but onward we must go. It's a short day's run, 62 miles to Reykjavík, where we will spend another 2-night stay. Although this is a short day's run for us, it takes us through some of the most beautiful scenery. Even the weather is cooperating today. The main attraction on this leg of our trip is Godfoss, waterfalls of the gods. It's smaller and less powerful than some of Iceland's other chutes, but it's definitely one of the most beautiful. The falls plays an important part in Iceland's history. At the National Assembly in the year 1000, a law speaker, Tolgir, was forced to make a decision on Iceland's religion. He meditated for 24 hours, then declared Iceland a Christian country. On his way home, he passed this waterfalls and tossed in his pagan carvings of the Norse gods, therefore bestowing the fall's present name. The Mývatn region is definitely the gem of the Northeast. Mývatn Basin sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge, and the violent geological action of the area has produced the astonishing landscape. This is the Iceland you've probably imagined. We're staying at the Foss Hotel. Foss Hotels are a chain of hotels in this country. This location is not mentioned often in travel guides that I've read. There's actually very little to do here, but exploring the area could be rewarding. We, however, decide to rest sleep in, and basically do nothing for the day and 2 nights that we are here. Our adventure boys have moved well ahead of us. It's cloudy, 43 degrees, cooler winds out of the northwest at about 11 miles per hour, and the forecast for where we're heading looks sunny for the next 3 days. We decide to ride the east side of the Dittifoss Road, 864, to the north coast. It's a good 115 kilometers or so of gravel. It's a lonesome road, a long haul. It's very potholed and rutted with some thin, slick mud sections. It's also very windy. The bikes, again hard slanted against it. First one way, then the other. Even on higher heat settings, the gear is having a hard time keeping up with the wind chill, and my face got cold. This was a bigger problem for Steve. He blew his heated gear outlet fuse 10 miles into the ride. He rode the entire gravel section up the west side of the Dittifoss without heat and was practically frozen. We stopped as the gravel intersected 85 so he could replace the fuse. We decide on an Airbnb tonight. We need a night out of the cold wind and an opportunity to dry the tents. We easily find a small cottage on a farm, indoor plumbing and warm rooms tonight, and a chance to chill that bottle of Brenniman we've been carrying since the duty-free. We dried our tents in the warm cottage and ate at a local restaurant as the markets were closed for the day. It was Saturday. They close early on weekend days. We sipped the cold Brenniman while watching the beautiful half moon rise from the narrow land end of the fjord. On our 9th day, we woke up to a bright sunny day and 58 degrees. A perfect day to ride the East Fjords. Our spirits matched the greatly improved weather. We had a good sleep, and having a hot shower in our rooms is an appreciated luxury. We have 50 plus miles of dirt and gravel today along Route 917. There are second gear switchbacks as we ascend and descend the very steep mountains. The road is incredible, the most amazing in Iceland so far, and arguably the best we've ever ridden. There's some deeper gravel. Other sections are a bit muddy. Once on the Ring Road, we ride through an amazing valley, clearly created by runoff that becomes a gorge the farther east we go. The mountains looming around us look like broken teeth. On the strand between water and the foot of the mountain, we see more farms and more turf houses, their walls being made of rock up to the eaves of the sharply slanted roof, and the whole building being built into a small hill. The roof is covered with turf. The very practical design of these date to the Viking settlement. There was little wood then and none now, so they used what they could of local material. Unexpectedly, we're also seeing driftwood, a first so far this trip. Big silver logs of trees, broader than telephone poles, washed up on the rocky beaches. As we go south, we see birch forests for the first time. These are the only big trees we've seen, and they're not that big. After another 6-kilometer long tunnel, we find a campsite for the night with excellent facilities overlooking the snug harbor. We stock up on snacks at the local market, salmon, cheeses, and Icelandic butter. Dusk finally begins around 11 p.m. Maybe Hoff or Vic tomorrow. Both are short rides away, and we could have made them today, but for being tired and finding this perfect campsite. We have plenty of time now. We're rounding the southeastern coast and are well ahead of David and Danny, who stayed 2 nights at Curry and another 2 at my Vatten. Another day, another dollar, as they say. In our case, a few dollars spent. We head out. It's our 10th day to ride. We head for Fjordur, some 113 miles away. We ride through nice scenery. Lots of steaming fissures in the distance. We admire them from afar, not interested in getting too close. Might fall through the earth. Bridges are often one lane, no traffic signals. They are sometimes long and rise in the middle, making seeing oncoming traffic hard to spot. Pull-offs are provided on either end to wait for the oncoming traffic. When it was my turn, I would run fast so I could at least be visible to the oncoming vehicles in time for them to pull off at the other end of the bridge. I suppose if you would meet in the middle, someone would have to back out. 2-wheel bikes would be able to pass, but our trike is too wide. The friendly people of Iceland would probably smile and comply. In the U.S., there could be a fight. We enter the town of Fjordur and look for the studio guest house. If you visit only one town in the East Fjords, this should be it. Beautiful, multicolored houses are surrounded by snow-capped mountains and cascading waterfalls. They have a seaport where the ferry boat from Denmark through the Faroe Islands arrives and departs regularly. It is the only ferry to other countries from Iceland. The town also hosts the only 2 cinema theaters in eastern Iceland. We arrive early at the studio guest house. Another lazy afternoon. For excitement this evening, we will explore, looking for just the right dining restaurant. Just when you think Iceland can't get more amazing, we woke up to bright and sunny weather again, 50 degrees with a light breeze. It's good not to be cold. The sun was drying the dew on our tents. The usual salmon, coffee, hard-cooked eggs, cheese, and moog bread with butter for breakfast. A thick fog rolls in, blanketing the harbor and campsite in a matter of minutes as we break camp. We're in and out of heavy fog along cliff roads. We descend into the bay. It's dotted with floating light gray swans everywhere, with a large black sand beach stretching out to the horizon. We ride through a short tunnel and cross lots of single-lane bridges. The larger ones are steel-decked, the shorter wood. Each makes its own sound as the bikes cross. We haven't seen a stoplight since we left Reykjavik more than a week ago. We're back in the sun now, fog having receded. The long black sand beaches make a striking contrast against the brilliant blue water. Not only can you see glaciers, from some vantage points you can see 3, 4, even 5 at once. Large, each has its own name. We ride down a dirt road to the Hoffel hot tubs, natural hot pots fed by underground springs, but we elect not to take a dip as the glaciers are calling us. We enter Jökulsárlón, the iceberg bay. It has the widest glacial path so far, where the glacier spills into a broad protected cove, calving icebergs where it meets the salt water. Seals frolic between the floating ice. It's the busiest tourist destination we've seen, partly because it's just off the Ring Road in close proximity to the South's large population, and partly because it's stunning and uniquely beautiful. We spend a lot of time here admiring the place. As elsewhere, tourists flock to the bikes and ask questions. A Chinese family here grabs Steve by the jacket sleeve, insisting to take pictures with him and the bikes. We head out again, finding yet another glacier that seems approachable and less touristy, down a long gravel trail. Warren dumps his bike on a tight turn into the trail, recovers it, and we think better of continuing the 8 kilometers and move farther down the Ring Road. We could spend days popping by glaciers after glacier in this region, but need to move on. There's a wicked southwest wind. We ride sideways for 25 miles, in awe of some of the bicyclists we see heading toward us. We tried a camp at Svinfell, but it was rudimentary, almost run down, unprotected from the winds, and very exposed. With rain forecast, we wanted somewhere with less adverse conditions and better protection. Another 25 miles of desolate nothing. We cross a lot of one-lane bridges along the Ring Road. With more traffic in the south, we occasionally need to wait for the other direction to clear. The wash eventually gives way to a large lava field made of black basalt covered in green-yellow lichen. We emerge from a short tunnel, and it's like a different world. We see well-tended farms, broad swaths of green crops, and sheep again. We see even more glaciers on the northern horizon, 5 or more at a time from this distance. Despite being sunny and warm elsewhere, clouds are captured by the glaciers, gathering ominously dark like something pretentious from a movie. The glacier makes its own weather, a fact that was further impressed on us the next morning. We find a campground for the night. It's clean, has great facilities, and it's sheltered from the wind between hedgerows of trees and large bushes and a looming mountain. After finding camp, we head to the market and meet some Germans who took a keen interest in our bikes. They recommended the F208 from the direction which we had just come, as an easy F-road with few river crossings and none more than knee-deep with small stone beds. Steve's bike with street tires would be treacherous on that, so we thought better of it. There's lots of time left to explore some of the low-risk paths to the interior. It cools quickly once the sun hides behind the mountain and a chill wind comes down the slope. We snack on our favorite cheese, white mold cheese. Yum! And cover up from the cold. We depart Sjesfjordur for Neskepstader, a short 58-mile ride today. We really enjoyed yesterday in the town of Sjesfjordur. Guess you have figured out that Danny and I are more city people. The ride today will hit some rain and we get to go through another 3.5-mile tunnel. Just getting to this town is a bit of an odyssey. The road certainly is not direct. Tomorrow we will round the southeastern corner of Iceland and start heading west. We arrive at our destination early and begin looking for the Hildebrand Hotel. The town is one of the largest of the fjord towns, but it seems small here at the end of the line location. It is said that our hotel for tonight is the best thing to happen to this town for years. It is a complex of super spacious apartments situated right in the heart of the town. We, however, elect to stay in one of the standard rooms. We really don't do much exploring today, just hang and have a nice dinner tonight. The glacier is making its own weather right on top of us. 48 degrees, steady rain pounding the tent all night and into the morning. Heaviest we've yet seen. Doesn't make me want to get out of the sleeping bag. I don't hear my companions making any noise either, so we must all have the same idea. I'm strategizing the best way to decamp and minimize everything getting wet. We take our time getting up, hoping for a break in the rain or at least it getting lighter. We use the common covered areas of the campsite to make our usual breakfast. I use the camp shower and we unanimously decide on an Airbnb for tonight. I find a place on the Golden Circle, a farmstay with separate apartment that looks perfect, and I book it. 30 miles away west, near Vik, we're out of the glacier's influence and have sun. We ride across long lava fields, the rounded kind with lots of long moss that mark an older flow. That becomes grassland and the ground evens out. There's a huge glacier to the north, almost the whole horizon. This is the biggest we've seen so far. Our weather seems to have come from it. Iceland is a place of microclimates. The sunny, even hot weather brightens our disposition as we make it to Vik. We take a several-mile ride across an uncertain path along a black sand beach toward the ocean, rounding a large cliff to find a secret cave facing the ocean. Now that would have been a perfect place to camp last night. A gentleman from Barcelona is very interested in our journey and strikes up a conversation. They seem surprised bikes could have made it this far out around the beach. Waterfalls at Skogafoss, awe-inspiring basalt columns and caves at Ranisfjara that shelter nesting puffins and Arctic terns, and the largest and finest black sand beach we've ever seen. Someone said it's the largest in the world. The pictures tell the story. The stunning scenery has become the norm. We even skipped some waterfalls thinking, do we need to see another? The south of Iceland is much greener than other areas, even up the sides of the mountains. It looks like Ireland or Scotland. There's a lot of thick volcanic topsoil, in some places several feet thick, and prosperous farms. Almost all advertise guest houses on small signs at the front of long dirt roads leading to them. There's a lot of new construction within sight of the Ring Road too, new guest houses and expansion of the existing ones. Tourism is really taken over here, more so than the north or east. There are new homes being constructed, large picture windows I can see through, no panes. They don't seem concerned about heating costs by the size of those windows. Geothermal heat is cheap, if not free. No biting insects in Iceland. Even the midges are only a minor annoyance, seem to occur around the interior lakes, and seem to know not to come inside. We even encounter traffic again along the Ring Road and in Selfoss later in the day, picking up groceries and whiskey. Bonus stores are the Icelandic equivalent of a 1/3 size Sam's Club. We reach the farm stay and meet the working dogs, 2 Icelandic sheepdogs, one a silly puppy, according to the woman renting the apartment to us. In Iceland there are no sticks, so the dogs fetch rocks. The dogs are small, maybe knee-high, and stout at around 20 pounds. All are working dogs descended from Viking dogs brought over at the time of settlement. A passing shower has kept things damp. We need to get everything dry before shipping back to the U.S. or it will mildew on the voyage. The farm apartment is a good choice for the night. The price seems reasonable, and we won't have to pack up wet gear. For dinner, Warren and I make lamb steaks, mashed potatoes, and salad from the market. We are warm and dry, and Warren will use the farm fresh eggs and loxy for salmon omelets in the morning. We head for the east side of the Golden Circle tomorrow. We depart Neskipstadr for no, that was not a hiccup. The town is spelled H-O-F-N. It is pronounced hup. Just say hup while breathing in. A nice run of 163 miles through some beautiful countryside and amazing glaciers. We run around several picture puzzle pieces as the road winds past 4 or 5 fjords. We will be following the southeastern coastline most of the way to the town of excuse me. Before we settle into our hotel, we do a little glacier gazing. We are staying at the Hotel Jokul, just a couple miles outside of town. It is located in the vicinity of the Vatnajökull, the European's largest glacier. The scenery around the hotel is spectacular, and many of the rooms have wonderful mountain views. Accommodations are good, but we are not impressed with the menu for dinner. We run on into town and find a nice restaurant. After, back to the hotel for our after-dinner drinks at the bar. We had a lovely stay at the farm apartment on the Golden Circle off of Route 30, about 10 minutes or so from Selfoss. The weather brightened nicely, low 50s by the time we wander outside, and light wind. Only 2 nights left on the road. We plan on hitting some highlights along the eastern side of the Golden Circle today, along a short route, less than 100 miles. With good weather forecast, we want to find and set up camp early as a base and dry the gear. We pack up, saying goodbye to our host and the dogs, and take off heading for the geyser, the namesake of all other geysers. We watch the plume of steam at the predicted time with other tourists ringing the area, and then head back to where we parked the bikes at the Geyser Info Center. While I pick up an Icelandic wool hat from my Christina and some windproof gloves from myself, the others notice Warren's bike has a flat rear tire. We see nothing obvious as a leak, fill it with pumps we carry with us to see if it will hold till we get to Gullfoss so we can deal with it in camp. Gullfoss is a beautiful short hike in. Again, bikes allow us to park pretty close to the trail. It's larger than some of the other waterfalls we've seen, and its proximity to the Golden Circle and therefore Reykjavik make it a crowded tourist destination. We then make for a campsite. Geyser has a basic and crowded one with no pool or hot springs within walking distance. So we opt for Langurvatn, which has the Fontana baths, a rather posh spa with beer and buffet within an easy walk. We set up camp and notice a nice hostel nearby. We booked that for the following night, our last night on the road, so we can ensure the gear is dry for the 2-week passage back to the U.S. We find a small metal chip between the tread blocks of Warren's tire and fix it with the tire plugs we all carry. It's too close to the end. We're feeling cautious, and to be candid, I think we're all feeling a bit tired at this point. I can feel the low energy level and note how short my journal entry is for today. Weather holds, and we have rehydrated food in camp that night. We plan a short ride around the circle tomorrow, checking into the hostel early and spending the rest of the afternoon at the spa. This is the last night sleeping on the ground. We depart this morning. Thank goodness. I can quit hiccuping now. Our destination for tonight is Vic. V-I-C. I tried pronouncing it by sucking in, but it hurt my throat. We will run about 169 miles today, about 4 hours. The run is beautiful, passing more and more glaciers, both in the distance and some right by the road. But the real attraction for today is Jökulsárlón. I've heard it called Iceberg Bay. The icebergs drift in the lagoon right beside the Ring Road. The iceberg sculptures are wondrous, with some striped with ash layers from volcanic eruptions. Seals play among them. As the ice breaks off from the glacier and falls into the lagoon, the process is called calving. They are then officially an iceberg. They can spend up to 5 years floating in this lagoon, or they can move through Iceland's shortest river, the Jökulsá, or Jökulsá, and then out to sea. The lagoon appears to have been there since the last ice age, but in fact it's only about 80 years old. Originally, the glacier came all the way down to the Ring Road. Having receded about 500 meters each year, it formed the lagoon on its retreat. The lagoon continues to grow. Boat trips are available, but we didn't do that. You can get almost as close to the bergs by walking along the shore. We spent a couple hours here, then moved on toward Vik and the Icelandair Hotel. This hotel is fairly new and shares a lobby with Hotel Edda. The two hotels are owned by the same people. Icelandair Hotel is nicest and a bit more expensive. All the hotels in this region book up totally, even ahead of the tourist season. Gray and overcast today. In the low 50s, no wind. Dry, but some condensation on the inside of the tent from overnight. As we've found near any lake in Iceland, the midges flock to us whenever we stand still. They don't bite, just annoy. When we get fuel, I'll ride around in circles in the parking lot to keep them away until the rest of the group is ready to go. I guess the weather's been so bad this season, the camp host asked us if we were here last Saturday. It was a perfect summer day. Only one day. Heading to Thingvellir today. It's a site of both geologic and national importance and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Geologic because it and a few other places along the Reykjanes Peninsula are the only dryland places in the world where you can see two tectonic plates moving apart at about 2 centimeters a year. Only here can you stand with one foot on the European plate and the other on the North American plate. And the land looks like it, with jagged walls marking the split. The North American plate is much taller. We overheard a tour guide joking, referring to it as Trump's Wall. In some places, waterfalls are created as groundwater runs off. The national importance of Thingvellir can't be overstated. It was the site of the Althing, the self-created national parliament of Iceland, from the time of the Commonwealth established in 930. It was here that once a year all chieftains would gather in their booths to discuss Iceland's management, adopt and revise laws, and settle disputes that could not be resolved by the regional level. It started when the law speaker, an elected position, would stand on a rock, also still present, and cite all of Iceland's laws. From that, new laws were proposed, modifications proposed, and then settlements discussed. While the idea of self-rule was based in Norwegian law, they even sent a representative back to Norway to learn their laws, there were important modifications made by the Icelanders for their needs. It's a beautiful place to wander around. It's an expansive rift valley between the continental plates. We pick up some souvenirs for people back home at the visitor center. The roads up to and around Thingvallavatn, the largest lake in Iceland, were beautiful. Winding, narrow, perfect for sightseeing at low speeds and following the lakeshore. We check into the hostel early. Dinner was excellent. We're thinking of end stuff now. What to take with us once the bikes are packed up for the ship's containers. It's day 14, our last day to ride a motorcycle in Iceland. We depart Vik and head back to Reykjavik, 112 miles, about 2 hours plus. It is Friday, and we must get to the shipping company with our bikes before they close. It seems that Iceland wants to show us a few last scenic wonders before we leave, making the ride to Reykjavik quite nice. Take a look. Upon arrival at Reykjavik, we need to go immediately to the city center hotel and check in for 2 nights. We expect to recover our travel luggage that is stored in the parking garage, repack the motorcycle, and rent a car. I expected the Adventure Boys to be at our hotel waiting so we could all head to the shipping terminal and check in together. One last problem. There was so much street repair around our hotel that we, nor even our GPS, could find a way in.
I think you can turn here.
It wants me to go on up and then
Yeah. Yeah, you can, yes.
go straight.
Yeah. Yeah, turn left here. Then turn that way. Yeah, this way.
Turn right.
Our hotel is that. Oh,
Where?
on the right. But you have to go.
It's over there.
Yeah, ne? Okay. Keep on your right. Just go straight. Yeah, keep straight. Yeah, if you can turn somewhere here, we turn.
When finally we got to the hotel, the only parking was paid spaces. And guess what? Not even my debit card was accepted by the automated parking stations. The heck with it. I just parked in front of the hotel where it said no parking. That's when I found out that the Adventure Boys chose not to wait for us. They had already turned their bikes in at the shipping terminal. Mildly irritated, I sent Danny off to rent a car, and I headed for the terminal. Danny picked me up after I deposited the trike into the shipping container, and we headed back to the hotel. We parked in the parking garage and headed for the Drunken Rabbit to wet our whistles. There, we found the Adventure Boys. A lazy late afternoon and a farewell dinner. We said goodbye to Carson and Warren as their flight back to Boston was the next morning. Steve and Danny and I turned in early for a good night's sleep. We don't leave Iceland until Sunday. A beautiful day today. Finally. Great for the ride back to Reykjavik and dropping off the bikes. The lack of rain makes it much less complicated to change to street clothes for the ride. Taking the long way back, we stopped by Curio on the way, a volcanic crater of some depth. I finally dumped my bike in the parking lot in full view of an Edelweiss tour group. Embarrassing. The ride into Reykjavik was easy. Simple pickup of stored luggage at the Reykjavik Motor Center and back to the hotel to rebalance our gear. We parked on the sidewalk, no spots in front being available, and drew lots of onlookers and questions. It really felt like we'd accomplished something. Then off to the shipping port, exchange paperwork, and ride into the open container. We switch to civilian clothes, take the bus back to the hotel, then embark on more souvenir shopping. It's easier to pick up larger items now since we don't have to haul them on the loaded bikes. We hang out at the Drunken Rabbit again, awaiting reunification with David and Danny, while I make a last-minute stop at the 66 Degree North store to pick up the puffy jacket I should have purchased at the beginning of the trip, and some windproof touchscreen friendly gloves for Christina. When I meet back up with the group at the pub, David and Danny are there. We meet for a final celebratory dinner. Absolutely fantastic. And a wonderful end to an epic trip. Warren and I are off tomorrow. The others have rented a car and will explore the Golden Circle, as they don't depart until Sunday. The saying on the elevator door resonates after our 2-week journey.